On today's show, we're taking an in-depth look at the Apple HomePod. Is it worth your while? You might be surprised by the answer. It's time for Unboxed Daily. Welcome to Unboxed Daily. I'm your host, Jason, and yes, indeed, we are finally diving into the Apple HomePod. What are its capabilities? What about that price point? Where is it good and where is it not? Well, we're gonna find out. If you want to see other stuff we've checked out, head on over to our YouTube channel and be sure to subscribe. Now, before we dig into Siri, you gotta ask the first and probably most important question. How does it actually sound? Is the quality of music coming through it actually good? Well, look no further. Austin Evans is here to answer that question. And granted, the sound's a little compressed, but I think you'll get the idea.
So of course, you're gonna be listening to this on YouTube, so everything is going to be compressed, but we do have a microphone here to hopefully give you a decent idea of what this sounds like in person. Let's give it a try. I will say one thing. This does a really good job of giving you that full 360 sound. No matter really where this is placed, you're pretty much gonna hear the same thing around. Something else is immediately apparent. This guy, even though it's obviously a very small speaker, has a lot of bass.
Even with that imperfect recording, I think it's clear. Apple designed a beautiful piece of hardware that sounds really good. One of the other cool functions of the Apple HomePod is that it has a bit of a spatial contextual awareness about where it's situated in the room that you set it up. Now that's really cool. It offers some really interesting capabilities. Here to tell us more about this spatial awareness feature is CKID, who dug into it a little bit as part of his review.
But if I had to pick one, I would have to give the Best Sound Quality Award to the Apple HomePod. And that really comes down to the spatial awareness technology that Apple has implemented into this speaker, where the HomePod will automatically just adjust the sound from bouncing off the walls in your space to provide you with the best optimal sound regardless of where it is located within your home.
So not only does it sound good, it knows how to sound good in the context in which it sits. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Now, for $350 as the price tag, you would think that the HomePod gave you all sorts of functionality that you've come to expect out of other systems from folks like Sonos or Bose. Bluetooth, direct ports in the back, that sort of thing. Well, unfortunately, you'd be wrong. Armando Ferreira took a look at the HomePod and realized that it has some severe limitations, particularly if you're not an Apple Music fan.
This is where things start to get very interesting because again, you need to be signed up to Apple Music. It is very, very enclosed, meaning you can't use Bluetooth, which I was very bummed about because here's the thing, I do have a lot of like indie type music that's not available on Apple Music or Spotify or any other platform that I like to just stream. There's no auxiliary inputs anywhere, so I'm kind of forced to the Apple Music ecosystem. And that's fine if you already have it and that's all you do, that's great.
Now it's worth noting, as Armando did later in his video, that you can in fact AirPlay into the HomePod, so you get around some of the Bluetooth limitations that are part of it. But honestly, it's a little disappointing that I can't just hook something else up and play directly through it. I have to go through Apple's ecosystem. Now, speaking of other Apple tech, it should come as no surprise that Siri is the built-in voice assistant for the HomePod. After all, you've got it on virtually every other piece of Apple hardware. It makes sense that they would include it here. But you know, it's a pretty high bar to set when you've got Alexa and Google Home as your competitors. So how does it do? Here to tell us more is Quinn from Snazzy Labs, who has some pretty strong feelings about Siri in general.
But I want to talk about its biggest weak point, in my mind, right now, day one, and that's Siri, which quite simply is not up to snuff. Siri is not good. I know people talk crap on Siri all the time, and Apple fans are like, she's really not that bad. No, she is. She sucks. Compared to Google Assistant and even the Amazon Echo, Siri is pretty miserable. Let me demonstrate that by using the following example. Alyssa, how much does the Apple HomePod weigh?
Apple HomePod weighs 5.5 pounds.
Hey Selma, how much does the Apple HomePod weigh?
Apple.com should be able to help you with that.
Now, I think Quinn gets sometimes a little critical in his videos. That's just me. But I will admit, he's absolutely right. Siri lacks a lot of capabilities and a lot of functionality that other voice assistants have, and it's troublesome and worrisome if you're looking to invest in a purely Apple ecosystem. But as they say, you can't judge a book by its cover, and conversely, you can't judge a voice assistant in a vacuum. Okay, nobody says that, but it's absolutely worth taking a look at Siri in the HomePod comparative to Alexa and Google Assistant in their respective pieces of hardware. So we've got your average consumer who's asking the same question of all 3 different voice assistants to try to see how they answer.
How many Final Fantasy games were ever made?
I found 40 Final Fantasy video games, including Final Fantasy 15, Final Fantasy 7
Oh, no,
Remake,
no, no.
Final Fantasy
Alexa.
12.
Stop. She was about to list all 40. How many Final Fantasy games were created?
I can't get the answer to that on HomePod.
How many Final Fantasy games were created?
My apologies. I don't understand.
Ooh, that's surprising. I'd expect Google to be able to answer that. How many Final Fantasy games were ever made?
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help.
So, Siri's not the only one that failed to answer that question. I think it's probably better that we say that voice assistants overall just need to raise the bar on quality a little bit more. Be able to search for obscure trivia, ask random questions, and be able to answer it not just with confidence, but with an actual search, not just, I don't know. Well, that's it for our look at the HomePod. What do you think? Worthwhile, or leave your money at home? Either way, be sure to check out other shows we've produced over on Unboxed.tv, or look us up on the iOS store. In the meantime, we'll be back soon with more great videos from the world of product reviews and unboxers. I'm your host, Jason. Have a great day.